Mahabharata, The Kings Who Could Not Truly Rule. Season 1, Episode 6. The Kuru dynasty had heirs at last, but fate had not given them peace. Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura, three brothers born of different mothers, bound by destiny. From childhood, they were raised under the watchful eyes of Bhishma, with discipline, with affection, and with equal care. Bhishma trained them in duty, in honor, and in the heavy burden of kingship. Dhritarashtra grew powerful, his body strong, his will unyielding, though his eyes had never seen the world. Pandu learned the arts of warfare, swift, courageous, beloved by soldiers and people alike. And Vidura, quiet, observant, ever thoughtful. As years passed, Vidur's wisdom deepened, so profound that even learned sages listened. And even Bhishma, the grandsire of the Kurus, sought his counsel. One day, Bhishma approached Vidura. "Our noble line has survived great danger," Bhishma said. "But survival is not enough. We must ensure that the Kuru lineage never again fears extinction. There are 3 princesses worthy of alliance with our house. Speak your thoughts." One is Kunti, of the Yadu lineage. Another is Gandhari, daughter of the Gandhara king. And the third is Madri, a princess of grace and virtue. Vidura listened carefully, then spoke with calm certainty. 2 should be sought for Pandu, he said, and 1 for Dhritarashtra. It is known, Vidura continued, that Gandhari has received a boon, that she will give birth to 100 sons, a great strength for any kingdom. Bhishma agreed. Messengers were sent to Gandhara to seek Gandhari's hand. At first, her father hesitated. "How can my daughter marry a blind man?" he asked. But Dhritarashtra was of the glorious Kuru house, heir to an ancient throne. At last, the king agreed. He sent his son, Shakuni, to escort Gandhari to Hastinapur. When Gandhari learnt the truth, that her husband would never see her face, she made a choice of her own. She took a cloth and bound her eyes forever. "I will not see a world," she said, "that my husband cannot see." For Pandu, alliances were also made. He was wed to Kunti, wise, strong-willed, and blessed by the gods. And to Madri, gentle, radiant, and devoted. Yet Pandu's heart was restless. Though he wore the crown, he felt little attachment to wealth or palace luxury. His spirit was drawn to the forest, to silence, to the life of ascetic kings of old. And so, Pandu approached his elder brother. "Rule the kingdom in my absence," he said to Dhritarashtra, "only for a time." Dhritarashtra agreed. Pandu stepped away from the throne, not in defeat, but by choice. Gold, jewels, palaces of stone and silk held little meaning for his restless spirit. The forest called to him, a place where kings became seekers, where silence taught what courts never could. With Kunti and Madri by his side, Pandu journeyed into the wilderness. They lived among trees older than memory, beside rivers that whispered ancient truths, surrounded by sages and wandering ascetics. Here, Pandu was not a king. He was a warrior, seeking peace. Yet fate never sleeps. One day, while roaming the forest, Pandu saw a deer, moving quietly through the bushes. He drew his arrow and released. The arrow struck true, but a scream followed. Not the cry of an animal, but the voice of a man. The deer fell, and to Pandu's shock, the dying deer began to speak. "Oh, how shameful," the voice cried. "Even degraded men do not act with such cruelty." "How then," it said, "have you, a king, a noble descendant of the Bharata race, acted against Vedic ordinance?" Pandu stood still. He answered, "As a king, it is my duty to hunt, to protect the forest, and to practice the arts of warfare." The voice replied, "I do not condemn you for striking me, but for failing to see that I was engaged in union." Then the truth was revealed. The deer spoke again. "I am a rishi who took the form of a deer to be with my wife, away from the world. You hunted while I lived in union. You shattered a sacred moment." The forest fell silent. Then the curse was spoken. "As I die, at the height of passion, so shall you. The moment desire takes hold of you, the moment you approach your wives, you shall fall, dead." The word struck Pandu harder than any weapon. He did not speak. He did not move. The bow slipped from his hands. Silence wrapped around him. Heavy, unforgiving. Pandu fell to his knees. The king who had conquered lands, who feared no enemy, was shattered. The sage died, and the forest returned to stillness. Pandu remained there, long after the breath had left the body, silent, broken. At last, he gathered what remained of his strength and made his way back to the forest dwelling. There, he told Kunti and Madri everything: the hunt, the revelation, the curse. His voice did not tremble, but his eyes held a sorrow deeper than words. "I can no longer live as a husband," Pandu said. "The path before me is one of restraint, of renunciation. I will live as Bhishma lived, in celibacy, detached from desire. I will give up the crown, the comforts of kingship, and live as an ascetic, begging for alms." He asked his wives to return to Hastinapur, to inform the elders, and to tell Bhishma what had transpired. Kunti and Madri were torn by grief. They fell at his feet and begged to share his fate. "Let us walk this path with you," they pleaded. "We will not abandon you to sorrow." Pandu listened, and though his heart ached, he did not yet answer. Before any decision was made, he removed his royal ornaments, gold, jewels, symbols of power now meaningless. He gave them to the Brahmins as an offering, as penance. Then he dismissed his attendants, ordering them to return to Hastinapur. "Tell Bhishma everything," he said, "and tell him this: the Kuru king lives, but he lives no longer as a king." And so, once again, the fate of the Kuru dynasty shifted. A blind man ruled the throne. A cursed king walked the forest path, and destiny tightened its grip. The Mahabharata moved forward, not through battle, but through sacrifice. This story is far from over. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.